We'll get right into it. First question is, why do I bodybuild? And, me personally, I got into bodybuilding after being an athlete for many years. Athlete through middle school, through high school. I was a wrestler. Got into college, I wrestled a little bit, and ironically, I stopped wrestling because I didn't want to cut the weight every week that I had to cut, which is ironic because now I just cut weight for a living. But why do I bodybuild? I love it, honestly. I just love the lifestyle. I love seeing my progress every year to year, month to month, when I'm in prep, day to day. It really motivates me and keeps me organized throughout my day. So why I bodybuild, even if I didn't compete, I would still be living this lifestyle. I'll still be going to the gym, I still be doing cardio, eating right, because I like the way I look, and that's important to me. To look good helps me feel better. So that's why I bodybuild. What motivates you? That kind of ties in the last question. My motivation comes from really seeing the progress that I can make year to year. But also I'm motivated by the idea of being the best at something. And I'm nowhere near the best right now, nowhere near. That's a very, very high goal of mine, to be the best. And the best in our sport is the Mr. Olympia. To win the Mr. Olympia means that you're the best in the world at something. So I'm motivated by the idea that I could potentially be there one day. Who do you idolize? Now that's a weird word. I don't necessarily say that I idolize. I don't have posters of people on my wall. I don't, there's people that I go to for advice, the people that I think that are intelligent, that can articulate ideas that may be complex, and people that have done it. I guess I say that people that motivate me, that I, quote unquote idolize, are going to be the guys that have made it to the pinnacle of the sport, and have put in the work. And you can see that because, the sport is not easy. And, when you have hard days and you realize, like, oh shit, that person felt this way as well, and they pushed through it. I guess I idolize anybody that can do this sport for the right reasons, not to prove anybody wrong, not to prove anything to anybody, but just do it because they love it. Those people that I fuck with. What started your passion? My passion in bodybuilding started, honestly, in 2013. Was my first show. Yep. And, I was a young kid. I was 20 years old and just coming out of rugby season. I'm like, man, I'm ready for something else. I just got injured, was in the gym, and when I did my first show, I won. And the feeling of being on stage and, you did all this hard work, and I had my family there and people cheering for you, and man, it was just like a really good feeling to know that I did all this work and it's being recognized and rewarded. And once I won that first show, I realized, man, I could do this. I can really do something in this sport. And as the years went on and I got better and better, my passion grew in terms of living the lifestyle. When I was still young, like many young guys do, the passion really isn't there. It's more of the excitement of the sport, the excitement of looking good or getting abs, or, a lot of guys start this sport because they want to get girls. Once that fades away and you really find out if you're really built for this, you're motivated and you're passionate about just the discipline that it takes to do this. My passion is fueled by my desire to be the best. What is the hardest part of bodybuilding? So when you're just getting started, I would say the hardest part of bodybuilding is enjoying the process, because it's new, it's difficult, it's challenging, and a lot of people go through their first show just because they said they're going to do it. They're very excited in the beginning and they want to get on prep, and they get a couple weeks in, a month in, 6 weeks in, and that excitement kind of wanes. So the hardest part is trying to be disciplined without motivation. So not every day you're going to be motivated to fucking kick today's ass and get in the gym and kill it. There's days that you're going to be dragging ass, and it's really the discipline that's the hardest part to develop, because no one's forcing you to do this. And when you have friends around you and family that are seeing you suffer, and they're like, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, what do you get out of this? And your answer is, I'm not getting anything. I get a trophy, but that's, I'm doing this for me. Finding that kind of discipline is really hard. Fighting the doubters or people that, don't really understand why you're doing what you're doing, and trying to stay passionate about it. I say that's really hard for a lot of young guys and girls doing your first show. You do it, you get through it, and it's that post-show that once you get that freedom back, it's hard to let go of that freedom again and to get back on prep. So I would honestly say that about 75% of people do one show and never do a show again, because they realize how hard it was to get through the first time, and they can never really get that motivation to do it again. Adversely, what's the most rewarding part? I guess the most rewarding part is being true to yourself. It's like telling yourself you're going to do something and then actually sticking to it and seeing it through to the end. Whether you win or not, if you go through a prep, you're going to change your body. You're going to change your mindset. Things are going to change, and that's rewarding to know that you could put yourself through hard situations, difficult things to do, the food, the cardio, the training, and make it through, and then kind of look back and just kind of enjoy the fruits of your labor. Again, whether you win the show or not, you got to be in love with the process. It's not always about the win. It's about the person you become along the way of trying to achieve that goal. How do you feel when you lose? So myself, I've always been very competitive, and even earlier in my career, I was, upset when I lost, or, second place was the first loser, and I was not angry, but upset, disappointed in myself. Like, how could I lose? But as you move into the pro league and you understand that you're now competing against the best guys in the world, losing for me is really, okay, let's just be straight up. I lose a show if I don't come in my best. I lost a show if I don't come to a show conditioned. I lose the show if my head's not in it. That's me losing, regardless of my placing. Take, for example, my last show, I was 6th in a class of, 20 pro physique guys. For me, that's a win. I did not lose that show. I won that show with my best shape, my best look. I felt like I won that show personally, though I didn't walk away with the first place victory. Losing the show is again, we're doing this for fun, man. This is a hobby. There's not many people in this world that make a living from bodybuilding. So if you're not enjoying the process and you're getting down on yourself, it's an all or nothing thing. Like, you're gonna do this prep where 25, 30 other guys are grinding just as hard as you, may have better, worse genetics, more access to gym, better access to supplementation, whatever it is. It's not an all or nothing thing. It's about beating yourself every single time and knowing and holding yourself to a standard that you can come in to. If you're in the last couple weeks of prep and you're kind of phoning it in, you're on your cardio, you're like, oh, I know I'm not gonna win this show, so getting off cardio 15 minutes early is fine, or having this little snack is fine because I know I'm not gonna win, then you lost the show, in my opinion. Some food questions here. Why do you eat sugar-free? I thought it was bad. All right, so just like I said, I've been dieting, or I've been bodybuilding now for about 8 years, and I've done just about every diet you can do to try to get shredded. And what I've found more recently is how to hack my everyday diet to always be making progress. And what that means for me is I use like diet hacks. So I'll use things that are low calorie that may not be considered healthy, but at the end of the day, I'm more worried about the caloric. I'm more worried about the calories of the food. So yeah, I'll use sugar-free syrups, sugar-free jellies. I use sweeteners, and I get this question a lot about like, isn't that unhealthy? But I get that question from normal people, from civilians. I call people that don't bodybuild civilians, because you live a civilian lifestyle. You just day to day. But I'm getting those questions from civilians that eat garbage, right? Oh, isn't that unhealthy for you? Isn't that unhealthy for you? It's like, if the most unhealthy thing I'm putting in my body is some sugar-free syrup and some Splenda, I think I'm doing pretty all right, right? I wouldn't say that bodybuilding in general is a healthy thing to do. Getting your body fat that low, restricting your macronutrients to a certain level to get a certain look. And that look is on the brink of death. So you gotta understand that being that low body fat on stage is not, your body does not want to do that. Your body's fighting you every second to not be there. Because it doesn't know that you're getting ready for something. It doesn't know you're doing this on purpose, right? It thinks like, holy shit, we don't have any food. Like, we don't want to do this. We're trying to reach equilibrium. We need to put body fat back on. And I also don't want to suffer in my diet unnecessarily. Yeah, there's a point at which you need to suffer, and you will, even using diet hacks. But if I can make my food taste better and I want to eat it, well, then it's gonna make the diet much easier. So using sugar-free options of a lot of different syrups, jellies, sweeteners in my food makes it easier to eat. I don't have the time to bodybuild. How can I do it? This is very, very, very common. Probably the most common thing that I hear. It's like, oh, I just don't have the time, which is absolute. It's just nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. Any client that comes to me that tells me, or a person that comes to me tells me they don't have time, I immediately know that this person is someone that makes excuses. And there might be jobs out there, but I can't think of you off the top of my head where you wake up and you work 16 to 20 hours a day, right? Most people, the general public, most civilians are waking up 30 minutes to an hour before they got to be at work. They're getting ready, brush their teeth, not eating breakfast, maybe grab an apple on the way out and a protein bar and hit work, right? It's very simple. Get up earlier. Get up earlier. I think a lot of people think that if I get up earlier, I'm going to be more tired throughout the day, and that's the absolute wrong thinking. Because if you get up and you raise your endorphins by doing some kind of physical exercise, doing some cardio, lifting some weights, just doing something active, you're gonna feel better. Not only is your body gonna feel better, you're gonna feel that in your mind, because you're like, man, I do that. Like, I did that. When you get to work and it's like, you've already killed an hour workout, and now you're gonna do this day, and you just feel at a higher vibration. You just feel better about yourself, physically and mentally. So people that say I don't have time, I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. I don't know anybody that's running themselves so hard into the ground that they don't have time to watch Netflix, that they don't have time to sit on the couch, that they don't have time to go take a walk, or to get some Vans and do some curls at their house. It's just not an excuse. It's the worst one. What proteins are best? So proteins are going to be the way that your body replenishes muscle cells. So in a bodybuilding sense, we look for the leaner sources of protein, which is going to be the white meat, so chicken breast, turkey breast. If you're using a meat, or if you're using like a red meat, you're usually going to go with like something really lean. When you look at steaks, like in the supermarket, the white stuff is the fat. We call that the marbling. So just by your eye, you can tell which steaks are fattier than others, right? You can look at something like a roast that's has a lot of fat to it. That's gonna melt down. It's gonna leave that meat really juicy. And then you look at one that just looks like a piece of muscle, very, very little white streaks through it. And that's going to be a little tougher, but at the end of the day, it's less fat. It's going to be a leaner source of protein. And not to say that that fat is bad fat. You do need some saturated fat in your diet, but the best types of proteins are going to be the leaner sources of protein. But all meats are going to be proteins. All plants have protein. You can be a vegetarian and get your protein. You can be a vegan and get enough protein in. Protein is literally in everything, basically. So, but in a bodybuilding sense, we want to look for things that are protein dominant. So if you look at a jar of peanut butter, it's going to say, yeah, it has 5 grams of protein in 2 tablespoons or whatever it is, but it's only having 16 grams of fat and 12 grams of carbs. So we don't consider that a protein food, even though it has protein in it. It's whatever the dominant source of calories are coming from, we consider that food. So peanut butter we consider fat because it has mostly fat. Chicken breast can be considered protein, even though it has a little bit of fat, it's mostly protein. So, and the fattier your meats go, right, that calorie is gonna go up. So it might be considered like a salmon is pretty much considered like a protein and a fat because it's gonna have a lot of fat to it. So, what would happen if I eat just like you? For the general public, if you ate like me and you didn't train or do cardio like me, you'd probably put on a lot of body fat. When it comes down to building muscle and staying lean, it is a calorie in, calorie out kind of thing. So me sitting at 240 pounds with about 200 of that, 200, 205, 210 of that lean weight, which means that's muscle is going to burn calories. So I burn more calories than if someone was 160 pounds that ate what I ate. You're gonna gain a lot of fucking weight, but you aren't gonna burn that many calories. So you'd probably end up putting on more body fat than I would. And the protein requirements are different. I recommend that you look at the way that I eat and you take it with a grain of salt, see what the foods I eat, adjust it to yourself, and you can copy me. I don't care. Go for it. What's the best way to talk to a bodybuilder? You guys look so intimidating. Okay, so I guess I'll answer this question by saying, what's the best way to not talk to a bodybuilder? Not with your hands. So keep your hands to yourself. We don't want to be touched. I don't know why people think they can just walk up and grab your arm like, wow, you're so big. Like, I know I'm big, get your hands off me, please. And I guess anybody that you see that you'd probably consider a bodybuilder that has a significant amount of muscle, that's walking around pretty big, you can assume that they, work out and know a little bit about nutrition, right? Probably more than you do. If you are in awe of them, you kind of want to ask them questions. So one thing that's a pet peeve of mine and a lot of bodybuilders is people seeking validation through talking to you. Like, oh yeah, I'm doing like a lot of like proteins and salads. Like, is that right? Like, should I do that? Like, we don't like to be baited into like questions. If you got a question, just ask it straight up. Like, hey, I don't know, I can't even think of one because most questions I get are just like, and that's actually the next question, common questions. Common questions, man, is gonna be like, hey man, how much protein you eat? Regardless of what I tell you, why does it matter? That's what goes through my head. If I tell you I eat 10 grams of protein a day, what does it matter to you? If I eat 1,000 grams of protein a day, does it mean that you're gonna do that? And that goes back to like, you can't eat what I eat, so it doesn't matter what I eat. I would prefer more questions about like, do you compete? Is a common question I get. Yeah, I compete. That's not a problem. I don't have a problem answering that question. Do you know this person? Do you know this bodybuilder? Cool. Yeah, we talk about bodybuilding and stuff. It's more the questions about like my personal diet and my personal workouts, and then those people trying to compare their workouts. Like, oh yeah, like as if they, oh yeah, they know that, they do that. Like, I mean, obviously you don't. So just the questions we get, man, are just, sometimes they are ridiculous. You have to answer them because, you know, you don't want to look like an asshole. But I would recommend that people, like, before you ask a bodybuilder a question, just type that shit into Google. Just Google it. See if you get an answer. Do some research. Have an educated question. What do people assume about you? Okay, so what do people assume about me? I don't know because I'm not in their heads, but I know what I think people assume about me. They probably assume I'm a meathead. They probably assume that I work out for 6 hours a day. They probably assume that all I eat is meat. In the gym, they probably assume that I'm angry or I'm an asshole. And that goes back to the last question. When people ask you questions, like, you don't want to seem like an asshole, because every interaction you have with somebody, right, that if someone's never seen a bodybuilder or someone your size, or they're like, they're dying to ask you a question because this is their only opportunity, right, you're about to leave an impression on that person that's going to shape the way they think about bodybuilders. So if you're an asshole, it's either going to reconfirm, like, oh yeah, bodybuilders are fucking assholes. Like, they're just fucking jerks, they're meatheads, they're dumb, right? So you always want to speak in a way that doesn't make people feel like their question is dumb, even though it may be dumb. But, you know, one of the things is, like, when I get on an airplane. You know, when you get on an airplane, you got to walk down the aisle and everyone's eyes are on you. If I'm carrying my gallon of water and, you know, whether I'm in a sweatshirt or a tank top or a shirt, people are looking at you and you can just read their minds. Just like, they want to say something so bad. They want to make a joke. They want to say, like, oh yeah, I used to look like that. Or lady, when I was on my way to Orlando, she says over the loudspeaker, like, as I'm halfway down the aisle, she's not even behind me anymore, she says, and if there's any problems, I'm gonna get that guy with the muscles to handle you. Now the whole plane's laughing, and they're not laughing at me, they're laughing, it's a joke, it's funny, but it just, like, I don't need that attention. Like, I get it. I get that I'm larger than most people that you've seen in your life. But the other way, like, you wouldn't just point out someone else. Like, if there was someone that was very heavy, overweight, you wouldn't point them out. If there was someone with some kind of, you know, deformity, you wouldn't point them out. But it's okay to point out a bodybuilder because, oh, he could take it, he's a big, strong man. Like, it's like, a lot of bodybuilders are introverts. I'm not. I don't mind too much, but a lot of bodybuilders are introverts because they always want to be in the gym and do their own thing. It's kind of like an outcast kind of sport. So I don't know. I think if people assume things about me that aren't true, and I try to dispel a lot of those, just by being a nice person, right? If you see me in the gym and I'm looking like I'm raging, right? It's because I'm really into my workout. And this is how I got to this physique, is by training like a monster. But if someone comes up and they have a genuine question, I'm gonna take my headphone out, I'm gonna talk to them just like this. Like, I'm not an angry person. So people assume that I am, probably. How do you cope with the attention? How do I cope with the attention? So this is a funny story. Back when I was in college, my best friend Luke, he's a tall guy, about 6'3", 6'4", I don't know. He was like 170 pounds, so pretty skinny for his height. Played volleyball, and you know, I was just starting to bodybuild, and I was just starting to get attention, so I wear a sleeveless. Like, you can see when I walk around with people, like, he'd walk behind me, we'd got a group of friends, and they would be like, dude, every single person just looked at you. Like, and it's one of those things that you have to kind of just dismiss, because you have to understand that sometimes people can't control it, right? It's like looking like rubbernecking in a car crash. It's kind of like, dude, like, I've never seen arms like that. Like, that's like veins. Like, they're gonna keep washing, and it's like they don't mean to do it. So to get mad at them for doing it is, you know, whatever. Like, stop staring at me is like kind of an asshole thing to do. But it's funny because Luke started working out with me, and we put some muscle on him. You know, I think he was like maybe like 190, maybe 200 pounds. So at 6 foot, 200 pounds or 6'4", like looked good, right? I had some biceps on him, and I told him, bro, you're gonna start getting attention that you weren't expecting, and people aren't gonna say anything to you. They're just gonna stare at you. You're gonna be like, why are people looking at me, right? We're a tank top, and he would say like, dude, I get it now. I'm walking through the mall, like I can see people looking at me at the corner of their eye, like, dude, that guy's bicep, that guy's vein. And it's like, you can't do anything about it. You just gotta take it. It's like, you just gotta sit there and just like, yep, I just gotta take this, whatever. And they're thinking whatever they're thinking, and you just gotta keep on kicking. So as long as people don't put their hands on me, we're good. Like, a lot of people just feel handsy, and they just want to come up and touch you. And it's like, don't touch me, especially nowadays. Like, some lady tried to touch me on the way back from Orlando last week. She tried to, she came up, I'm having a conversation, she just randomly comes up, she goes, wow, you must eat a lot for arms like that. And I'm stop my conversation. Yep, I do, yeah. And then she goes and puts her hand out, and I back up. And she goes, oh, I wasn't gonna touch you, I was just comparing. I was like, you were comparing what? The size of your hand to the size of my arm? Like, come on, lady. Don't touch me, please. Like, I have no problems with people. I don't want to say I have no problem, but it's like, I don't know. It's just one of those things that, like I said, you wouldn't go up to someone else that looks different and kind of harass them and interrupt their conversation to say some pointless things. I don't know. Last one. Are you happy with your body? Yes, I would say I am happy with my body. I think this sport creates a sort of body dysmorphia in a lot of people. You'll never really be big enough, but understanding that that's a thing can help you cope with it. Because, as I was younger and I was coming up, did my first competition at like 170 pounds. So as I start to get larger, and I remember thinking when I was 170, 180 pounds, like, man, when I'm 200 pounds, like, I'll be good. Like, that's like the size I want to be. Like, that's a man. And then you get there and you want more, and there's always someone bigger than you. There's always someone more muscular. There's always someone more shredded than you. So you kind of just look up and you're like, okay, I can get there, I can get there, get there. But I've gotten to a point now where I've been able to take a step back. I don't realize it in my daily life, but I'm able to, when I reflect, take a step back and realize, like, dude, you're 5'11", 240 pounds. If your 170 pound self saw you right now, they would think you're a freak. So I gotta like realize that and understand that, like, I tell my roommate all the time, like, I don't realize how big I am because I was always a small kid. I was 5 foot, 100 pounds going into high school. I was a tiny little kid. So it's one of those things that I've been able to take a step back and realize, like, dude, you're large. Like, you're wearing double XLs. You're a big dude. So in terms of bodybuilding, I'm not really big. In terms of what actually is real in real life, like, I'm one of the biggest people in the room most of the time. So that's I am happy with my body. If I was to stop bodybuilding today, stop competing, like, I'd be happy. I probably wouldn't stay this large all the time. I think I'm doing this for a reason right now, to get big and put on muscle to compete. But I would say where I'm the most happy is probably about 220 pounds, lean. I feel athletic, I feel big enough, but I don't feel like it's not hindering my performance or my cardio. So yeah, that's the first Q&A, guys. So again, I took these questions from someone that isn't in the fitness industry because I wanted kind of their take, their questions, pick their brain. So if you guys have questions, drop them in the comments below. Subscribe, hit the bell. I'm gonna try to upload these at least once a week. So I'll take the comments. I'll take questions from the comments. I'll take questions from my Instagram. It's just Jeremy Dutra. Find me there. And if you have questions about coaching or posing, nutrition, any of that, you can find me at jdutra00@gmail.com. Until next time, I am out. Adios.